What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Phillies sports history for January 22nd, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast. It's going to be a little warmer today. The rest of the week is supposed to warm up too. Might be some rain, but at least the snow and the ice should melt. As always, let's start with our recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked who was the best free agent signing in Philadelphia sports history, and before we get into what the results were, a lot of you have reached out and said, well, Moses technically came over in a trade. And if you heard yesterday's podcast, I even started questioning myself somewhat on that. And the more I thought about it and the more I kind of realized, like I said, I questioned myself and realized, oh, no, wait a minute. I already did the research and had this covered, anticipating this. Technically, he was a restricted free agent. So the Sixers offered him the contract. The Rockets then reluctantly matched it in order to make the trade happen. So it's kind of like that gray area, but for intents and purposes for this question, we'll count it as a free agent signing. But when it was all said and done, 63% of you said it was Bryce Harper, followed by Moses Malone. So thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. I will say we had some good write-in votes. A lot of people took it. Since I did one for each team, they went and gave their favorite for each team. Some that could easily have made it. Pete Rose certainly came up. He could have made it, helped lead the Phillies to the 80 World Championship. Obviously, Nick Foles, when he came back to be the backup for Carson Wentz, he was a free agent who signed. Cliff Lee was in there. George Lynch was mentioned. Some of these guys we did talk about, which is nice. John Runyon, Chris Long, but all of those guys are definitely could be on the table. I had some people mention Roy Halladay, but Halladay did come over in a trade. So everybody has their personal opinion. This is why I like doing the question of the day, because get some good answers, some things I didn't even think about. Pete Rose was one. Certainly didn't even cross my mind, to be honest. I always forget that he came over. So thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. 267-495-8531 gets you in on the voice and text line. Get your voice heard. We will have a question of the day later in the show. While you're at it, go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. We're trying to get up over 100. We're slowly getting there. But if you're watching on YouTube, it's very simple. Just hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to the podcast, go to YouTube, Jimbo_Mont, and just subscribe. And the more subscriptions we have, the bigger this thing grows, the better it is to make it even more bigger. And like I said, I know we have we're hitting that mark, so just go hit the subscribe button. Very simple to do. You can turn off notifications if you don't want your notification bar going up, but do me a favor, subscribe, Jimbo_Mont at YouTube. Be sure to buy your Girl Scout cookies from Ella. Orders are starting to come in, which is pretty cool. It's the power of just what we're able to do here, so that's why it's like, just go like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But if you're interested in Girl Scout cookies, don't get them from anyone else. Get them from Ella. All the information you need is down in the description. We had a good day yesterday. Let's keep it rolling. Hit our goal and take down some soccer moms while we're at it. All right. Tough loss for the Flyers, 5-3. And this was just as much as the other the game the other day was the Dallas game was a big win. This was a bad loss to Ottawa, one of the worst teams in the league, and to lose this game 5-3 after being up after being up 2-0, it's tough. This is their second straight loss, and this seems to be the MO of this team. They'll go on a run. We start getting hyped up on them, and then they kind of fall back to earth. They lose a few in a row, and then we're like, okay, they're coming back to reality, and then they surprise us again. And you'll have this with a young team in any sport. So no harm, no foul. Owen Tippett is still listed as day-to-day with that lower body injury. Hopefully he's not out for too long. Hopefully they also can regroup tomorrow against Tampa Bay, which will be a tough test for them. It's almost like they tend to play up to their competition or down to their competition, this team. So Tampa Bay is one of the better teams in the East, so that means we should get the Flyers' best effort tomorrow. But just an overall bad loss for them. Bad weekend, losing both games on the back-to-back matinees down at the Wells Fargo Center. But they will bounce back. John Tortorella will have them ready. Let's just hope that they can keep it up because they have been a lot of fun to watch. Not really any news on the Sixers front. They are in action tonight against the Spurs and Victor Wembanyama. The trade market is starting to sort of take shape, and again, it depends on who you listen to and what you want to believe. DeJounte Murray has been rumored to be one of the guys the Sixers are targeting, or a target, I should say, for the Sixers. However, it is questionable how his game fits with Tyrese Maxey, who Tyrese plays a very similar game to what Trae Young does, and DeJounte Murray and Trae Young don't necessarily seem to be able to coexist. So that would not be one of the guys I would be targeting, especially with the way things have been going. But we have a few more weeks until the trade deadline, so let's see what Daryl Morey and Elton Brand have up their sleeves. Why are going through your business, your typical Monday morning routines, Monday afternoon routines, go check out Philly Goat. Get your Believe shirt. Start getting ready for pitchers and catchers in a couple weeks. Get ready for spring. The weather is going to get warmer at some point. Get those shoes. The shoes they have, those canvas loafers, are amazing. I cannot wait to buy a few pair of them for just bumming around the house, bumming around maybe the pool or the beach, whatever. Go check them out. They're just amazing. Like, you're definitely, if you want to, if you like people talking to you and drawing attention for stuff you wear, you're going to love these. So go to phillygoat.com. They have you covered. If you don't want the shoes, you don't want a Believe shirt, you name it, they probably have it. Just search through their thing. And they're always coming out with new stuff. So go check out phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order at checkout. That's phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order at checkout. If you get the Believe shirt and you put the work in, you too can have the 19-inch pythons just like Johan Rojas. All right, for the Eagles, not really a lot, but there's a lot, if that makes sense. Sean Desai is officially fired, which, if you connect the dots there, that pretty much means, since Nick Sirianni is the one that fired Sean Desai, that means pretty sure he's staying, as we suspected. And again, the Eagles have no reason, in my opinion, to make an announcement that Nick Sirianni is coming back to coach, especially if that was the plan all along. Even if it wasn't, it accomplishes nothing by coming out and announcing that Sirianni is staying. So Sean Desai has been let go. No word yet on Brian Johnson and what's going on with the offense. But, I mean, don't be surprised if there is not a change with offensive coordinator. I think it might come down to Nick Sirianni having to let go and really give Brian Johnson some more control of the offense. And I know that's probably a very unpopular opinion here in Philly, but he did some creative things in his time in college and just different places around the league. So I wonder how much this is, and I heard somebody on the radio last week say, you're trying to stick a round peg in a square hole, and maybe that is what is happening with Brian Johnson, because people are seeing it. He's getting interviews, and I mean, I think whether they're legitimate or not, whether they are just Rooney Rule courtesy interviews or not, I mean, the fact that he's getting that many, I think if you're going to skirt around and cheat the Rooney Rule like that, you at least have to make it believable. So I don't know what that means. But I would not be surprised, although there are, like I said, I mentioned yesterday, Jim Bob Cooter. I think it comes down to more Sirianni needs to let go and let an offensive coordinator. I forget who I was listening to yesterday. I was listening to a recap of the one of the midday show interviews they did with Brian Billick, and Brian Billick basically was like, the toughest thing for a coach is hiring an offensive minded coach is hiring an offensive coordinator and letting him coordinate the offense without being in, because it's tough being a head coach. So hopefully that is one of the outcomes of the meetings where Nick Sirianni sort of lets it go a little bit, gives input, but lets whoever, whether it's Brian Johnson, Jim Bob Cooter, or somebody else, let them coordinate the offense and handle that while Nick Sirianni sort of oversees. And some of it could be the Eagles' philosophy. There's a lot going on there. But Sean Desai is fired. No word yet on Brian Johnson. However, that does mean that like 99.999% sure Nick Sirianni will be your coach for next year. If not, they're doing him very dirty, making him fire everybody and then firing him. But you never know. You never know. Watching those games yesterday, man, it's hard to believe that at one point we beat Tampa Bay, then we beat Kansas City, and we beat Buffalo. I don't know what. That's why I don't necessarily think that this is an unfixable problem, because I mean the talent is there. It's just something mentally happened, and you just need to fix that. But man, here's to fixing whatever's wrong. But that does lead to the question of the day. There's a lot of question marks surrounding this team, and what should be the Eagles' top priority? 267-495-8531. Get you in on the voice and text line. Is it hiring the right defensive and offensive coordinator? Is it replacing and re-signing DeAndre Swift, or just rebuilding the running back room because Boston Scott is also a free agent? Fixing the secondary or fixing the linebacking core? Let me know what it is. 267-495-8531. What should be the top priority? Getting coordinators in, running back, secondary, or linebacker? Let me know your thoughts. Personally, I think you need a good defensive coordinator, but the defensive coordinator can only do so much. I mean, I think revamping the secondary and the linebacker, if I had, I put them separate there, but they could be. I think they're both 1 and 1A. But let me know what you think. Maybe it is something else. Maybe you want to see an offensive coordinator, but let me know, what is the Eagles' top priority? Coordinators, running back, linebacker, or secondary? 267-495-8531. All right. Today, we're going to go back to 1992, and on January 22nd, 1992, the Sixers beat the Knicks 119-109 down at the Spectrum. Charles Barkley, while wearing number 32 to honor Magic Johnson, who had retired prior to the season. I think it was prior to the season, or it might have been very early in that season. But I think it was before, because Barkley wore it throughout the whole year. It was already retired for Billy Cunningham. Cunningham gave Barkley permission to wear it to honor Magic Johnson. Anyway, Charles Barkley, while wearing number 32 in this game, had 37 points, 14 rebounds. Armand Gilliam had 24 and 9, and Hersey Hawkins had 23 and 7. That's solid core three there for the Sixers, but the big story was Charles Barkley pulled down his 6,639th rebound, breaking Billy Cunningham's quote-unquote Sixers record for all-time leading rebounder. I put that in quotes because that is the Sixers franchise record, but if you encompass the whole history of the franchise, even going back to when they were in Syracuse, Dolph Schayes is the rebound leader, 11,256. Then it's Red Kerr with just over 9,500. Both of them had majority of their rebounds when they were with the Nationals. Barkley ranks third all-time on that list with 7,079. For those of you keeping score at home, obviously Billy Cunningham is fourth and Wilt Chamberlain is fifth. Where do current players rank? Well, Joel Embiid is only 90 behind Samuel Dalembert for 8th place, so he's slowly moving up that list, and if he stays healthy, has a decent shot to break Dolph Schayes' whole franchise record. But on this day in 1992, it was Charles Barkley breaking the Sixers' all-time leading rebounding record. So he has the most rebounds for the Sixers since they moved to Philly, but it's Dolph Schayes for the entire franchise. That 91-92 team finished 10th in the East. It was an injury-plagued season, and Charles Barkley fought with Harold Katz and Gene Shue that season. Basically had a falling out because they didn't re-sign Rick Mahorn, but instead, the big free agent signing that year was Charles Shackelford. Barkley being Barkley, this is why he's a treasure, and I had to put his story in there. Katz told him that we got Charles Shackelford. He led the Italian league in rebounding. And Barkley being Barkley, and this is, I'm sure, somewhat paraphrased throughout the years, but basically said, dude, if I wanted an Italian, I'd have pasta or something. I'm not looking for no basketball players, no disrespect to Italians, but I want some Italian food. I ain't looking for no basketball players over in Italy. And Barkley was right. Shackelford was just not good, and he was back in the Italian league after a couple seasons anyway. But the way that season played out, Barkley did force a trade that offseason to the Phoenix Suns and ultimately put the Sixers into the dark ages until the drafting of Allen Iverson in 1996, number 1 overall. But on this day, back in 92, Charles Barkley set the Sixers franchise record for most rebounds in a career, record he still holds. However, it's only third on the franchise list because Dolph Schayes and Red Kerr had a lot of rebounds when they were the Syracuse Nationals. All right. Finally today, our free agent who had a fresh start in Philly, we're going to stick with the Sixers, and that is Robert Covington. The first time he was here, he signed a 5-year deal back in 2024 after being cut by the Rockets as an undrafted free agent. So the fact he was able to get a 5-year deal, part of it was because of the Sixers tanking and being part of the process, but part of it was his play. And because he had the opportunity, to me, Robert Covington kind of became the face of the process. He was sort of the go-to guy for that team while they were trying to figure out what the hell they were doing. And he did, to his credit, he made the most of his opportunity. He played 5 years the first time in Philly. Parts of 5 years, because I guess when I look at the stats, they count some of this year too. But averaged 12 points, 5 rebounds a game. And he was on some terrible teams. He was a great defender, though. He made the NBA NBA first team all defense back in 2018. Used all of that, whatever he had, and that clout and just experience he had, parlayed his way into the trade that basically brought Jimmy Butler to the Sixers. So him, Gerard Bayless, Dario Saric, and a second-round pick package to bring Jimmy Butler to the Sixers, which they should have never got rid of him. And again, he's had a solid career. He's back with the Sixers now in the James Harden trade, but not bad for an undrafted free agent out of college who was cut by the Rockets and ultimately was just given a job because the Sixers were tanking. So Robert Covington, fresh start free agent who really was, to me, the face of the process. While obviously everybody says Joe, but to me, Covington was the guy that was the guy on that team. So shout out to Rocco for really making the most of an opportunity. It's one of those stories that came out of a small school, made the most of his opportunity, made a ton of money. And hopefully he will be playing for a championship, or he could be one of the trade pieces the Sixers use to make a run. But either way, Robert Covington is today's free agent who had a fresh start when they came to Philly. On this day in 92, Charles Barkley set the Sixers franchise record for rebounds when he pulled his 6,639th rebound down. That is third all-time for the Sixers/Nationals franchise, though. He would be traded then that offseason. Sixers, I'm anxious, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing Wembanyama play tonight. Really excited for this game. Be sure to answer the question of the day, 267-495-8531. Send a voicemail, send a text message. What is the Eagles' biggest priority this offseason? Is it getting good coordinators, fixing the running backs, fixing the linebackers, or fixing the secondary? Let me know your thoughts. And again, if you're going to fix the running backs, you got to get an offensive coordinator and then it's going to run the ball. Just throwing that out there. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's get it up over 100. Buy your Girl Scout cookies for Ella. All the information you need is down below where I'm pointing in the description. Follow that link, place your order, and we thank you in advance for that. Go have yourselves a Monday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.